Hello everyone, today we're doing a revision in maths, paper 1, question 1. So question 1 for the exam is always the same. We're asking for solve for x, nature of roots, and also simultaneous equation. So now let me start with the question that I have at the moment. So make sure that you focus, you have your writing material, get ready. We're gonna practice now. So we're dealing only with paper 1. Next will be we're dealing only with chapter 1, paper 1. Next week we'll continue with chapter 1 for simultaneous equation and the nature of roots and so forth. So let's get started. I believe that I'm being heard loud and clear. So remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel, Canninessy. We are live as well on YouTube and also on our website, canninessy.com/live. Alright, let's get started. I hope you can see my screen. So we have question 1. We have these 5 questions. Solve for x. We have number 1, x squared minus 9x plus 20 is equals to 0. Number 2, 3x squared plus 5x is equals to 4. It says correct 2 decimal places. Then we have an exponential equation. 2x to the power negative 5 over 3 is equals to 64. Then we have another equation as well. Square root of 2 minus x is equals to x minus 2. Lastly, we have x squared plus 7x is less than 0. So we are solving for x in these equations. Alright. Alright, let's get started. I'm also showing you the marks, how much each question. Okay, so number 1 is 3 marks because it's easy. Number 2, it's 4 marks. Number 3, 4 marks. Number 4, 4 marks. And the last one is 3 marks. So the total mark here is 18 marks. Alright, let's go. So I will be explaining. Remember to interact by commenting on our Facebook page and also on our YouTube channel. So here we have x squared minus 9x plus 20. This is a quadratic equation. It is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. So it's in this form. So first thing, remember, the examiner said that solve for x. So as you can see, there's no any instruction that is given. So which means that you can use factors to solve for x. In other words, you have to factorize this equation in order to solve for x because you are not given any extra information. So let's factorize. Okay, now factors of x squared, okay, let me, all right, so I want to see clearly. So factors of x squared that can give you, factors of x squared is x and x. So we have here x times x will give us x squared, right? Is equals to 0. I hope you are following. Then now the factors of 20, right? Okay, let's write them down. Factors of 20, we have factors of 20 is 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and lastly 20. So these are the factors of 20. So remember, here we have a positive sign. Remember, if the last term is positive, which means we have to add the factors of 20. We have to add the factors of the last term. In this case is 20. The last term is 20 here. We have to add the factors of the last term, which will give us the middle term. So remember, 1 goes with 20. So if we add 1 plus 20 will give us 21. So we'll cancel these two. We won't use them. So 2 goes with 10. So 2 plus 10 will give us 12. Then we're left with 4 plus 5, which will give us 9. So the factors that we'll use is 4 plus 5. It's 4 and 5. Remember, I told you that if the last term is positive, which means we have to add the factors of the last term to give us the middle term. In this case, the last term is 20, so we have to add the factors of 20 that can give us the middle term. The middle term here is 9. Forget about the signs at this moment. It's 9. So here we'll have 4 and 5. We're using 4 and 5. So if the last term is positive, we'll have the same sign. That is, we take the sign of the middle term. In this case, the sign of the middle term, it's a negative. So here we'll have x minus 4 into x minus 5, right? So these are the correct phrases that you're gonna use. Then from there, you know the story. We will have x minus 4 is equal to 0, or x minus 5 is equal to 0, right? Then so now we have these two possible solutions. We have x minus 4 is equal to 0, or x minus 5 is equal to 0. So which means we will say we're going to transpose. We're going to take negative 4 to the other side of the equation, in this case to the right hand side of the equation. Remember, when you are transposing, you are taking a term to the other side of the equation. Now we're taking negative 4 to the right hand side, and we're taking a term to the other side of the equation, the right hand side, whether to the right hand side or to the left hand side, the sign must change. So here we have a negative 4, so now it will become positive 4. So the first solution will be x is equal to 4. The reason x is equal to 4 because x on the left, 4 on the left hand side was a negative. Now 4 becomes a positive. So x is equals to positive 4. This is our first solution. Then the second solution, or x is equals to, can you guess? So x is going to be equals to positive 5. So x is going to be positive 5. We're transposing, we're taking 5 from the left hand side to the right hand side. So we have these two possible solutions. So it's either x is equals to 4 or x is equals to positive 5. Perfect. Now let's move to the next question. Number 2. Number 2, here we are guided. Remember, in your question paper, when you're writing an exam, it will always tell you that correct your answer to 2 decimal places. It will always tell you that correct, unless it's otherwise specified. So it always tell you that correct your answer to 2 decimal places. And in this case, since it says that correct your answer to 2 decimal places, it means we have to use the quadratic formula. We have to use the quadratic formula. I believe by this time you already know the quadratic formula because you were using it last year in your grade 11. So since maths, you have to practice it on a daily basis. I think you know it by heart. even if you don't know it, you will be given on the formula sheet, but you must know it. If you know it, it's a proof that you are practicing it. So it's a proof that you are practicing on a daily basis, because this question always come in each and every year that corrects your answer to 2 decimal places. So here, first, remember it says 3x squared plus 5x is equals to 4. So when you are solving a quadratic equation, you must make sure that your equation is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. When you're solving a quadratic equation, you must make sure that is in this form. Ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. If it's not in this form, you get the wrong answer. It must be always in this form when you're solving a quadratic equation. Perfect. So then now let's write 3x squared plus 5x is equals to 4 in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. So we'll say 3x squared 3x squared plus 5x. Then remember, we are transposing 4 to the left hand side. In other words, we are taking 4, the constant 4, to the left hand side. So remember, the 4 on the right hand side was a positive. Now when you're taking 4 to the left hand side, it will change the sign to become -4, right? Is equals to, when you took 4 from the right hand side to the left hand side, you'll be left on the right hand side with 0 is equals to 0. Right now is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. Remember, c is a constant, is a number without the x. C is a number without the x is equals to 0. So now is in the correct form. We can start using the quadratic formula. So I hope I'm being heard. So let's continue. Then here we'll use the quadratic formula. I believe you know it by heart. All right. So the quadratic formula is x is equal to minus b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So this is a quadratic equation. Perfect. Then now we have to substitute the values of a, b, and c. So here, let's just make our lives easy by writing the values of a, b, and c. So what is the value of a? The value of a is the coefficient of x squared. In this case is 3. a is equals to 3. Then the value of b is the coefficient of x. In this case, b is equals to 5, right? Then the value of c is that number without x. If here we had 3x squared plus 5x minus p, so the value of c was going to be p, right? Because p is the variable or a number without x. But here, remember, we had a -4. I'm just explaining. So here we have a -4. So the value of c will become -4. Now we're going to substitute in the quadratic equation. So here we'll see the value of b. The value of b is 5. So here we have 5 squared. Let's put the brackets so that we don't make mistakes. Minus 4 into the value of a. The value of a is 3 into 3 into c. The value of c is negative 4. Negative 4. Then close the brackets. Excuse me, divide by 2a. So the value of a is 3. So then you have to use your calculator to get two possible values of x. Right, use a calculator to get two possible values of x. So here, let me just split it for you. Okay, here we'll have x minus 5. Then we have two possible values. Here we're going to say the first one is going to be plus, or then the other possible value is going to be a minus. So here we have minus. So these would be the two possible values of x. Remember, here we have x is equals to negative 5 plus or minus square root of this. So here we are splitting it, so it's going to be x is equals to negative 5 plus square root and everything, or x is equals to negative 5 minus the square root, right? So then you just use a scientific calculator and get the correct values. So if you don't know how to use a calculator, you can inbox us, we're gonna help you. So now let's get to number 4. Let's try to solve number 4. So as you have noticed, you can see that number 4 is an exponential equation. So here we have 2x to the power negative 5 over 3 is equals to 64. So when you're solving an exponential equation, you must make sure that everything is in exponential form. So remember, we have this coefficient. So first things first, we have to remove this coefficient, right? So here we have 2x 2x to the power 2x to the power negative 5, right? Divide by 3 all over 2. The reason I say over 2 because we want to remove these 2, we want to eliminate these 2 that is on the numerator. So we're dividing by 2. So whatever you do on the left hand side, you must always do on the right hand side. So that is a mathematical law, so that you don't change the original equation. So it's going to be is equals to 64. Who can guess? So it's going to be equal to 64. It's going to be 64 divided by 2, because on the left hand side we divided this term by 2, so on the right hand side you have to do the same thing, so that we don't change the original equation. So here 2x to the power negative 5 over 3 divided by 2 will be left with x to the power negative 5 over 3. So here we'll be left with x On the left hand side, we're left with x to the power negative 5 over 3. Negative 5 over 3 is equals to, then 64 divided by 2, that will be equals to 32. Perfect. Is equals to 64 divided by 2, that is 32. Now we have to change the right hand side into an exponential form. So we're gonna say x to the power negative 5 over 3 is equals to, remember when you're changing 32 into exponential form, is gonna be 2 to the power 5. So it's gonna be 2 to the power 5, 2 to the power 5. All right, remember this is the same as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 to the power 5 is the same as 2 times 2, that is 8. 8 times 2, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. So that's why we said, so remember, when the bases are the same, we take a single base. In this case, is 2, right? Then we add the exponents. So here, any number in maths is to the power 1. So we're gonna, this one, we're gonna say plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. That's why we had 2 to the power 5. Again, if you don't have a background of exponents, you can contact us so that we can teach you. So now everything is in exponential form. So now we have to remove. Remember, here we're solving for x. Since everyone is in the exponential form, now we have to remove the exponent, so that on the left hand side you'll be left with x. So how can we remove the exponent? The negative 5 over 3. All right, so we have x to the power negative 5 over 3, negative 5 over 3. So how can we remove negative 5 over 3 on the left hand side so that we will only be left with x? So which means we have to multiply with exact exponent, but in a reverse way. So we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of the exponent. So here we'll have, just open brackets, open brackets, then close brackets, then here, right? So now we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of the exponent. The reciprocal of the exponent is going to be 3 multiplied by 3 over negative 5. So I'm multiplying by the reciprocal of the exponent, multiplied by 3 over negative 5. So remember, whatever you do on the left hand side, you must also do on the right hand side, so that you don't change, you don't alter the original equation. Is equals to, so is equals to 2 to the power 5. So is equals to 2 to the power 5. So here remember we multiplied by the reciprocal of that exponent, so we're gonna multiply here, multiplied by negative, multiplied by 3 over negative 5. All right, so we're going to multiply by 3 over negative 5. Perfect. So here negative 5 multiplied by 3 is going to be negative 15, right? We are saying negative 5, the exponent one, negative 5, the numerator of the exponent, negative 5 multiplied by 3 is going to be negative 15. And then we go to the denominators, it's going to be 3 multiplied by negative 5, again it's going to be negative 15. Then negative 15, all right, okay, let me just write it down. So here we'll have x to the power, I want you to see this, x to the power negative 15 over negative 15, right? Remember we said negative 5 times positive 3 is negative 15. Then we say positive 3 multiplied by negative 5 is negative 15, right? So is equals to so remember any maths, any number is over 1. So here let's just change it to, I want you to understand, let's just say 5 over 1. Perfect. So then let's continue. Here we'll have 2, right? The base 2. Remember, we're dealing with the exponents at the moment. We have the base 2. Then 5 multiplied by 3, we have positive 15. Here we have a positive 15. We have a positive 15. Then we have 1 multiplied by negative 5, we have negative 5, right? As a numerator of the exponent. So I hope you are still following. So then here we say we have x to the power negative 5 negative 15 divided by negative 15 is going to be a positive 1, right? Is equals to 2 to the power 15 divided by negative 5 is going to be negative 3. Negative 3, right? So now remember, in maths, you cannot leave your answer. You cannot say x is equals to something to the negative, to the negative exponent. So remember, your exponent should always be positive when you're leaving, when you're done calculating. So here we'll say, remember we had x to the power 1 is equals to 2 to the power negative 3. So then we'll say x is equals to the power negative 3. So we are removing that one because we have in maths we have an invisible one, that is an exponent. So we will say x is equals to 2 to the power negative 3. Right, now let's change this. So it will say our answer will be x is equals to 1 over, our answer will be x is equals to 1 over 2 to the power positive 3. 1 over 2 to the power positive 3. Remember, when this numerator goes to the denominator, if you change the sign, it was 2 to the power negative 3, now it has become 2 to the power 3. So you can leave your answer here, that x is equals to 1 over 2 to the power 3, but to be fair, we have to just simplify it as x is equal to 1 is equals to 1 over 2 to the power 3 is the same as 2 multiplied by 2 the same as 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2, right? Therefore, our final answer will be x is equal to 1 over x is equal to 1 over 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So the final answer will be equals to x is equal to 1 over 8. So this will be the final answer. So that is 4 marks. Is it 4? Yes. Yeah, that is 4 marks. So that is 4 marks. So the reason I made this long, I want you to understand this. You can finish this within 1 minute. So I just want you to understand, to follow the steps, how I arrived at a certain stage or at a certain step. So I want you to follow along. That's the reason I made this long. So remember, you can go through this in your spare time. Now we are just live, so I won't explain everything. If you don't understand, just go through it. Then if still you don't understand, just get back to us. So now we're on number 4. Number 4 is made up of 4 marks. Remember, for number 4 we have this square root sign. On the left hand side we have a square root sign that covers everything, and on the right hand side we just have 2 terms. We have the first term, which is x, and the second term, which is the negative 2. So if we can write restrictions here. You don't need to write this thing, but according to understanding, remember, everything on the square root will give us, is either will give us 0 or anything that is more than 0. So everything on the square root is going to be 0 or greater than 0. So which means if you are making restrictions here, we would say x can never be equals to 0. Why? Because if x is equals to 0, if x is equal to 0, here is gonna, the answer will be negative 2. Remember, a square root, anything under the square root cannot be a negative. The answer cannot be a negative number. So that's why we have the restriction that x should not be 0. This is just a restriction. You don't need to write it. I'm just teaching you. So Here we'll say let's put it under a square root. So here we have 2 minus x, right, is equal to x minus 2, right? So remember, when you're removing a square root, which means you have to square, so we're going to square the left hand side, everything that is under the square root. So in this case, excuse me, so in this case, we're squaring everything that is under the square root so that we can remove the square root. So in this case, we are going to square the square root of 2 minus x. So we're gonna put it inside brackets. Then now let's square it. We're gonna square it. Remember, whatever you do on the left hand side, you must do on the right hand side, so that you don't change the original equation. So the equation remains the same. So remember, if we squared everything on the left hand side, we squared everything under the square root. So now we have to square the right hand side so that we don't change the original equation. So here we're gonna square this. So we have x minus 2 all squared. I hope you are still following. So when we are squaring a square root, so we are only removing the square root. So on the left hand side, we'll be left with 2 minus x is equal to, so this one, we can do it by inspection, or we can make it long. Here we have x minus 2 into x minus 2, right? Then let's simplify the right hand side. 2 minus x is equal to, remember this, we're going to apply the FOIL, first terms, outer terms, inner terms, and last terms. So we're going to say x multiplied by x, these are first terms, so here we have x squared. We'll have x squared then we'll say x, so we're doing FOIL now, x multiplied by 2, we're doing outer terms, is 2x, so it's going to be minus 2x, right? Then now we're doing inner terms, negative 2 multiplied by x, so it's gonna be negative 2x, right? Then last terms, negative 2 multiplied by a negative 2. Remember, a negative times a negative always give a positive. It's gonna be positive 4. So what we'll do here, we're gonna take everything that is on the left and transpose it to the right hand side. So we'll say here, okay, let's first solve the equation. Let's first simplify the right hand side so that we don't make things difficult. So 2 minus x is equals to x squared x squared, right? So here we have negative 2x minus 2x. So these are like terms, remember? So we'll have minus 4x, right? Then we're left with a constant, which is this case plus 4. Plus 4. So now we're going to take everything that is on the left hand side to the right hand side. Then we'll have 0. We're transposing everything on the left to the right hand side. So we'll have 0 is equals to x squared is equals to x squared, right? Minus 4x, right? Plus 4. Then remember, when you're transposing, the sign changes. So the 2 was a positive, now the 2 become a negative, minus 2, right? Then the negative x is gonna be positive x plus x. So here we have 0. 0 is equals to x squared, right? Then minus 4x plus x, we have minus 3x, right? Then 4 minus 2, that will be a positive 2. We're left with plus 2. So here we have 0 is equal to x squared minus 3x plus 2. So now let's write it in the right order, in the proper order. Instead of saying 0 is equals to something, is equals to a quadratic equation, let's write it in the proper way. Remember, earlier when we started, we said that when we're solving a quadratic equation, it should be in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. It should always in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. So now we have to change this equation in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. So that will be x squared minus 3x plus 2 is equals to 0. So now is in the right order. So remember, this is 4 marks, so which means that you have to use the factors. In other words, you have to factorize. So factors of 2 okay, this one is easy, it's quite easy, this one. So we have to factorize. Factors of x squared that can give us x squared is going to be x and x, right? Then factors of 2 is 1 and 2. Remember, the last term is positive. Remember when I explained earlier, when the last term is positive, which means we have to get the factors of the last term and we must add them to get the middle term. So factors of 2 is only 2 factors. It's 1 and 2. So this one is quite easy. So it's going to be 1 and 2. Remember, when the last term is positive, we have the same sign. Then we take the sign of the middle term. In this case, the sign of the middle term is a negative. So we have x minus 1 into x minus 2 is equals to 0, is equals to 0. Therefore, therefore therefore x minus 1 is equals to 0, or x minus 2 is equals to 0. We're saying x minus 1 is equals to 0, or x minus 2 is equals to 0. I hope I'm still being heard. I hope I'm still being heard. I think so. All right. So, therefore, therefore x is equal to so x is going to be a positive 1. Remember, when we're transposing, to transpose is to move one term to the other side of the equation. In this case, we are moving negative 1 from the left hand side to the right hand side. So the negative 1 becomes a positive 1, or x is equal to positive 2. Remember, on the left hand side the 2 was a negative, so when we transpose it, when we are taking it to the right hand side, it becomes a positive. It was negative, so it becomes a positive. So these are the final answer. All right, one more, and we're done. This one is 3 marks. So this one is 3 marks. So here we have x squared plus 7x is less than 0. In other words, is 3 marks, and we are not told to correct to 2 decimal places, so which means that we're gonna factorize. So we have x squared, plus 7x x squared plus 7x plus 7x. I want it to be okay. All right, so we have x squared all right, so here we have x squared plus 7x is less than 0, perfect. So now let's factorize. So it's gonna be, remember, we're factorizing. Okay, let me take this one, so that we can follow. So remember, we're factorizing x squared plus 7x is less than 0. So here, if you can notice, we have a common factor. In this case, our common factor is x. So we're going to take out x. We're going to take out x. We open brackets. So we say x squared divided by this x will be left with x, right? We're left with x. Okay. Perfect. So here we have x into, so x squared, right, divide by this x outside the bracket, we'll be left with x, then plus, because we have a plus sign, 7x divide by this x outside the bracket, will be left with 7, close brackets, is less than 0, is less than 0. Then, so you can see this is an inequality. So we would say all right, we will say x, right, x is less than 0 but greater than 7. We'll say x is, we say x is less than 0 but greater than 7. X is less than 0 or greater than 7. Okay, let's explain further. So here we'll say I'll say x is greater than negative 7, right? X is greater than negative 7, or x is less than 0. So if you say x is greater than negative 7 or x is less than 0, you can write it in a simple form, in the proper form. You can say x, right? X is less than 0, right? While x is greater than 7. Perfect. So this is the form that you write. This is the correct form, this one. So I was just explaining here, but you can write it if you want to. But no, to get the full answer, it should be in this form. 7 is less than x, x is less than 0. It should be in this form. So this one you can just remove it. I was just explaining to you so that you can understand how I arrived in this answer. All right, we are done for today. So I will post questions so that you can practice and practice and practice. Remember, maths is not a theory subject where you just read and memorize. Maths, you have to practice it. Even though you will think that you are following me while I'm teaching, as long as you have not written down with your hands, you might be confused during the exam. So the focus here is to make sure that you are practicing. We give you the work so you can practice. So I will post questions that you need to write, you need to do, or you can just grab previous questions, then do only question 1. Don't be in a rush. Just do question 1 so that you make sure that you understand question, because question 1 is always a standard. It comes in this way, in this form. It does not change from the previous exam papers. It's always in this form. We are always solving for x. We are always doing simultaneous equation, which we'll touch next week. We're always dealing with nature of roots or inequalities. So it's always in this form. That is question 1. It does not change. We are always doing exponents, solving for x using exponents. So you must make sure that you practice question 1 from previous exam papers, or you can go to our website, you check for past exam papers, they are there. So thank you so much for watching. Remember to like our page, on Facebook, that is Canninessy, Canninessy on Facebook, or you can follow us. You can subscribe on YouTube on our channel. You can click the subscribe button and also like our videos. We have plenty of videos there, maths and physics. So thank you so much for watching. uh, we'll continue with physics paper 1. So in a space of 30 minutes or an hour, Mr. Stephen will continue with physics paper 1 grade 12. Will be leading you, teaching you only question 1. He'll be giving you some exercises and answering your questions only for question 1, because we want to do it step by step. We don't want to rush and do trigonometry or geometry. We're getting there. So we want you to focus so that when we are in February, we know that we have mastered question 1. So that in March, you won't be asking how to solve for x, how to solve for quadratic equation, what is a quadratic equation. So we want you to follow step by step, because the questioning does not change. Question 1 in the exam paper, November exam paper, is always like this, does not change, it's always like this. So make sure you go through it. If you don't understand, go through it. Um just write, follow along on the video, pause the video and write with your own pen. So make sure that you understand. If in case you don't understand, you can watch the video 3 times. But if still you don't understand, then you can reach out to us so that we can have a dialogue and explain further. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to share our videos on social media. They are available on social media for free. But if you need extra lessons, you can contact us. Online lessons, it's 60 rands for maths and physics combined. Then physical lessons, if you reside in East London, physical lessons is 1000 rands, both maths and physics, from grade 10 to grade 12. Then for grade 8 to grade 9, it's maths and natural science. The price is the same. It's 600 rands for online classes, or 1000 rands for physical classes. So make sure you share our Facebook page, our YouTube channel with your friends at school, with your classmates, so that we can do well this year. We can all pass with distinction, with flying colors. Thank you so much for your time. Keep practicing maths. The rule is by practice, practice, practice until you get it right. And never pity yourself when you don't understand any certain topic. Remember, always here available online, so always reach to us. It's good to make mistakes when you're practicing than to make mistakes during the exam, because during the exam there's no second chance. The second chance will be next year when you're repeating. But since you're following our page, so we want to make sure that we prepare you for the exam. We give you tons of work, tons of practice exercises. Thank you so much for watching. See you next week.
Can you do the Satubora service at line? Governor Sister Zerere will take a prayer 15 minutes prayer. She will take a 20 minutes prayer. What did they do? Take rhapsody of reality. Then after we pray promo, Sister Kobisa will pray for our sources of our disciple training program for another 10 minutes. So can you do it? Yeah, do that line and send it to me so I can confirm it. Then call them first and get back to me 1 minute.
Oh my God. Kone baze? Sorry baze? No se. Yes sir. Yes sir.